Hi, I'm June Scobee Rodgers here in Chattanooga at the National Medal of Honor Center. So happy to be here with Lee Greenwood. Now, for many people, he doesn't need any kind of introduction. But for those who might wonder, now I've heard of Lee Greenwood, but who is he? This man has had dozens of number one singles. He's famous for many, many songs, but most famous, well known for God Bless the USA. We're proud to be Americans. And this man is truly a proud American. He has a great story to tell, and we're going to ask him how it all began. I think you were born in California, but we all take you as a Tennessee son.
Well, thank you, sister. Great to be here with you in Chattanooga. We have a long history, don't we?
Yes.
And you talked about me being from California. It's funny, when I tell people I was born in Los Angeles, they get some eyebrows, because of my history in country music. And you're right. We've had 36 albums, 11 number one songs in country music. And people ask me, is God Bless the USA an umbrella that covers everything you've ever done? I said, well, maybe yes, but it's not a parachute. It is not something that I rely on or that I look to for fame or attention. We work towards the betterment of America as best we can every single day. And my history in California is growing up. My history in Nevada is growing up more. And then, of course, my history in Tennessee and my marriage to my wife, Kim, who was a former Miss Tennessee, was the third page of my life. And it's enduring at this point.
Tell us how you met Kim.
Let me just go back a little bit and talk about the very beginning of my history with the military. My father joined the Navy right after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. That was his war. He survived it. He was in combat, but he was in the South Pacific on a Liberty ship, which is defenseless. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, he was not sunk, so a lot of those men survived as he did. I had respect for the military, but because I had children at a very early age, it was impossible for me to serve. Through the years of Vietnam, of course, I lived in Nevada. I was following the news, trying to keep my career afloat. And until I moved to Tennessee, I didn't really get engaged with the military like I did when I came here. And I started working my USO tours again.
USO.
And when we talk about how I met my wife, we would actually meet on a USO tour. And that goes back to the days when we were doing a lot of them. I toured with Bob Hope. We went around the world, 8 shows, 8 stops in 8 days, and realized how small the world can be or how big it can be. And my wife, Kim, was a performer in Europe with Randy Travis. And the very last stop on our tour was the Azore Islands, and we couldn't land. And they were waiting for us, the group that was performing. Kim was one of 4 young people who were performers. And we were supposed to pick them up at Christmas time and take them home. So Kim would not meet me, and I would not meet her until my next USO tour, which is we took to the North Atlantic, and I invited her to go on the tour. And little did I know we would fall in love and then have 2 sons born in Nashville, and my country music community and my country music life at that point became a whole distant memory of California and Nevada.
Yes, you're truly a Tennessean.
I am a Tennessean now.
When you sing God Bless USA, it's from New York to LA and so forth and so on. You crisscross the whole country. But I wanted to share with our viewers how exciting it was to meet you when I was a widow of Dick Scobee, and you were performing at the rodeo in Houston. And he was kind enough to ask about the Challenger Center organization and what we did for children and education around the country. And he volunteered to be a board member for us.
Yeah, and proudly.
And not only did he talk and express himself well about Challenger Center and what we were doing for children, but he was on a celebrity game show, and the donation for winnings would go to Challenger Center. So not only did he volunteer his knowledge about running a nonprofit, he also provided a great deal of money for Challenger Center to move us along in those early days.
I remember distinctly, June, my performance at Houston Rodeo would have been one of four. And that particular year, of course, the Challenger went down. And President Bush was in attendance that night at the rodeo to honor the Challenger families. And distinctly, I remember his chief of staff came to me, and a member of Secret Service, and said, the president would like to talk to you. So, and of course, 41 became my very close friend, as you know. And so I visited with him for a minute, and he said, would you like to meet the family of the Challenger? And I said, absolutely. That would be the first night we would meet. We did a lot of fundraisers for you and getting the Challenger Centers started. And I don't know how many there are now. The last count, I think, was 55 between America and Canada and places beyond. But I do remember the Wheel of Fortune. And it's funny because I had never seen it. I'd heard about it, but never seen it. And my wife said, you need to see it before you go do that. And so I looked at it, I said, well, anybody could win that. And we did. So we won a chunk of money, and of course you were my charity, the Challenger Center, and proudly, we presented that check to you.
Oh, I can thank you sincerely because that got us off to a good start. And then for the first time, Challenger Center had an event in Washington, D.C. The president was there, and Walter Cronkite. We older folks know who he is.
Yeah.
A great
famous commentator.
And Lee sang for us. And all of the Challenger families, we all got up and stood with him while he sang. And we were all tearing up because you were so proud to be an American, and we understood now, even more so, what it was to be an American.
Well, it's such a great honor to do that for Dick Scobee and his crew that represented the Challenger, of course, and you were a part of that family, and you honor that memory as well. And no greater place than right here in the museum.
Yes, in the middle of honor. Well, you still hang out with presidents.
I do.
You just were at the 150th anniversary.
250th.
I knew that. 250th anniversary of the Army. Tell us about that.
Well, I didn't know until I actually did some reading that we actually honored the 250th anniversary of the United States Army, which was in Washington, D.C., and I sang at that event with the president, the vice president, and all of the people that were there, of course, to honor the Army. It was a big parade. There were too many tanks. I mean, it went on and on and on, but they showed all of the weapons, that the Army has at its disposal, from helicopters and things flying over, the parachute team, the Golden Knights, and I realized then that we had a standing army before we had a country, because we had to beat the British.
Yeah.
And so before the Declaration of Independence and the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, which will be in 2026, next year, we honored the Army first. And so actually the Navy and the Marines will also get honored later this year. As well. But that was a fantastic parade. I enjoyed singing there. We had a reception, Kim and I, at the White House, and met some of the Medal of Honor recipients who were there with us as well. And President Trump addressed the small group there in the White House as a reception. And then we went back and sang at the parade, which was pretty cool, actually. So you asked me about how many presidents I've sang for. Well, 10. And at the Reagan Library, there was Nixon, Carter, Ford, Bush, and Reagan, all their wives, and Lady Bird Johnson. Fast forward almost 20 years for hurricane relief at Texas A&M, which was where George Bush Library is. It was Presidents Obama, Carter, Clinton, and both Bush presidents. And I have that picture on my website, leegreenwood.com, which you can see a picture with my wife and I standing behind all 5 presidents. And that was exciting as well. But now here we are with President Trump. And still as a personal assistant, if you will, and appointed to the Kennedy Center as a trustee. I'm serving yet another president. And it's astounding. I've tried to push away from Washington, D.C., June, and it seems like they keep dragging me back. It's like...
Well, how does it feel to be famous, so famous that when you walk down the street, people go, "Oh, there's Lee Greenwood," or you go to a restaurant? How do you have private moments?
Kim and I talk about that a lot. My wife and I have been married 33 years. She is no wallflower.
She's beautiful.
She was Miss Tennessee USA in 1989. And when we married, people usually recognize her first.
Oh.
And they go, "Who's that guy with her?" And they go, "Oh, yeah, that's that singer." With my association with President Bush 41, now President Trump, I feel like it's 1984 again because we recently visited Qatar, and it's not my first time in the Persian Gulf. I've done that on a USO tour before. But when I walked into the palace, all of the Qatarians all recognized me immediately, not as a country artist, but as an ambassador for the United States who stands next to the president. So that acclaim has gotten me new recognition. And like you just pointed out, anywhere that I go now, whether it's in America or anywhere else, I'm recognized more over than ever before. Yeah. And when we had our country career at its highest, that was only national. Now it's international. And so we always take a moment when people recognize they want a picture, an autograph or something, and we do as courteous as we possibly can. I want to be known as an ambassador for our country, just like you are.
Yeah. You're being very humble, very modest about all of what your accomplishments are. But share with us how your song, God Bless the U.S.A., came about. How did you think it up? Or where were you when you were creating it? You wrote, people often think you just sing it. No, you wrote it too.
Mm-hmm. The early days of my career, even in high school, when I was a drum major for my marching band, drum and bugle for the American Legion, I recognized the pageantry and the discipline of the military bands, Air Force, Army, and I marched right alongside all of them. And not because of my father's service or my wife's father's service in the Army, but because I knew there was a responsibility that went with me as an artist. There was something I needed to do. 20 years in Nevada, didn't really give it a thought. But after hearing Elvis in the same hotel where I worked, the Hilton Hotel, sing the Battle Hymn of the Republic, something registered in my mind that there is a responsibility that I have to create something eventually that makes America feel good about itself. Hence the line, "I'm proud to be an American." But I didn't want to make that the title of the song. And it didn't come about, even though I got my career in Nashville and exploded with country hits across the country. It was the fourth album that we released before I wrote God Bless USA. So we didn't rely on that to bring me to the attention of the media or the public. No. It was actually Universal Records, the Universal Pictures head, Irving Azoff, that made the call to release that song from the album called You've Got a Good Love Coming. Now, this is important because CMT was brand new. Country music television were asking for videos from all artists, and I knew sooner or later video would take over audio. Oh. From that moment, we had been a star on radio. And it's like speakeasies to pictures, you know. This is from radio to television. And so we went to London and filmed at the train station in London the title song of the album, You've Got a Good Love Coming. I put $25,000 of my own money in it. Patrick Duffy, who was a cast of Dallas, who had a photographic memory, by the way, and a close friend, did a cameo on it. And you can find that on YouTube, You've Got a Good Love Coming. When I presented that to Universal, and the head of Universal, Irving Azoff, said, "No, I think it should be God Bless USA." Oh. You could have knocked me down. It's the only song I wrote on that album, and I'd written songs for all of the previous albums. But it was the right thing at that point. I just didn't know. And later, it would be proven.
So you won a Grammy Award for
a different song.
For what song was that?
I Owe You.
I Oh, you.
And there's a video on that. It's written by Carrie Chater and Austin Roberts, two very fine writers from two different coasts at the time. And we did a video that is on YouTube, Spotify, Alexa, wherever you watch your videos. And it was a very heartfelt song, like Wind Beneath My Wings, which I recorded as well on the same album. And the album was called Somebody's Gonna Love You, which is also now on Spotify because Universal got smart and they started putting artists so you could find your older artists, if you will.
Well, I'd like to ask you one of my favorite questions is about Lee and Kim have two very talented, handsome sons. How did you go about raising these boys to be so smart, college, university graduates, PhDs, doctors, and so kind and such fine gentlemen?
Well, June, as their godmother, which
yes, I'm trying. Did you hear that? As their godmother,
which you graciously stepped in, and you know what that represents, of course. In case the family disappears, someone else can take charge of them, and they love you dearly. Dalton, our first, was a year old when we moved to our theater in East Tennessee. So we moved away from touring for a while, and we were there 5 years at the Lee Greenwood Theater in Eastern Tennessee. And Dalton made his first appearance on stage during that 5-year period. Parker, our second son, was born while we were there. So born into an entertainment family and knowing how to negotiate that, I was touring heavily. Kim, of course, then accepted the directorship of Miss Tennessee USA, Miss Tennessee Teen USA, Miss Georgia USA, Miss Georgia Teen USA, and Miss Mississippi USA and Mississippi Teen USA. That's a mouthful. Executive director of 3 states was a handful for her.
Yes.
So we were in the touring years at the same time having to raise these two young boys, which are 2.5 years apart. Let's fast forward to past high school. Dalton was valedictorian. He went to Washington Lee University and got an undergrad in biochemistry. I can't even pronounce the words that he has come up with. After that, he went to Vanderbilt and got a PhD in cancer research and immunology. And so now he's in a working group of representing his knowledge and lives in Chicago, going to move to Michigan. Our younger son, and he's 30, by the way, and married. And his daughter, his wife, we just absolutely love.
Yes.
And she got her master's in education, which you would approve of course, at Vanderbilt University. And so she teaches in younger grades as well. We love Sarah. Parker, our younger boy, not to be outdone, could have been probably salutatorian in high school, but he had already gotten a chancellor's scholarship to TCU in Fort Worth, Texas, because of his acting. Great actor, great singer, and so he changed at TCU. He changed to music as his major. He graduated there and then went to the University of Miami. At the time of this taping, has just graduated there and got his master's in producing and engineering and music, and then moved to Nashville. And he's 26, so unmarried.
So I saw Parker in his high school play Les Mis.
Yes.
And his booming voice was just out there. I mean, it was standing ovation for a young man in high school.
Well, he was the lead, Jean Valjean. Jean
Yeah.
In the play, and which got him the Chancellor Scholarship at TCU because he was so talented. And by the way, as the Kennedy Center has just opened again and being refurbished by the President Trump, I'm a trustee there. And the first play that opened under Trump's chairmanship was Les Mis. Oh. And I shared with the president that our son was a lead in the play, and he was thrilled about that.
Oh. Well, Lee Greenwood, I can't even describe your fame, but people know. I am so honored to have you join us on this podcast. And you have the first edition of Silver Lining. But I'd like to pass this on to the whole family. And please accept it.
Have you
with
signed
my
it
love.
for me?
I will sign it. Will.
Or I tell you what, while you sign it, and you can find an appropriate place to sign it, and I brought a pen for you.
Okay.
Let's see, I'm almost sure it will work.
Thank you.
I'm going to present you with God Bless the U.S.A. Bible.
Ah.
So this is the third or fourth edition of it. This is called the Gold Edition of the Bible, God Bless U.S.A. Bible. It is the King James Version of the Holy Bible, the Gospel. And in the back of the Bible is 4 documents: the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and the Pledge of Allegiance, which is not a Founding Fathers document, but I think it's important that people see.
Yes.
There's one additional page which includes the handwritten lyrics of God Bless the U.S.A., which I signed as well. And I'm going to sign this to you. I'll take it out of the box so you can see again and it's called the Gold Edition, commemorating the 45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, which I have introduced many times. So I'll sign this well.
Yes. How lovely. And Lee agrees with me. We start young with children, teaching them about the love of America, and the people who died sacrificed their lives to the freedom that we all enjoy.
And today is June
19th.
19th. So this is June's day. This is Juneteenth today at the time of this taping. So
Yeah, and we're having coffee with June.
and I'm thrilled to present this to you. I have given one to the President of the United States as well. So you have about the third copy that I've had in my hand.
Oh my goodness. Well, it makes a beautiful gift and has the gift box.
Yes, it does.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Lee.
My pleasure. My pleasure. How are you doing, by the way? I know that you're an interviewer today, but you've been interviewed by so many people and so many famous people who know who you are. How are you doing, June? You live in Chattanooga.
I love Chattanooga. Married a good old Tennessee fellow who served the Army for many, many years.
We love Don Rodgers.
General Don Rodgers.
I made a big mistake, by the way. One day we were talking, and I think you remember this. And I said, you know, it's funny. One of the things that you're so famous for is your whistling.
To Don, yeah.
Without mentioning, he was a 3-star retired Army general, and in the Joint Chiefs of Staff is like, oh, there's that other thing. It's like, but he was a really good whistler.
He was.
I mean, he could have been a recording artist,
Yeah.
you know. I was like, but I loved Don so very much.
He was so impressed with a question you asked him one time, or statement that you made, that I wish I could whistle like you, Don.
Mm-hmm.
And his, what? And he told me time and time again, Lee Greenwood said he wished he could whistle like I do. I have recordings of Don's whistling, and I love to listen to them.
It's funny, my grandmother who raised me, Edna Jackson, Edna Starkweather Jackson was her maiden name. Her favorite record was Heart's Mountain Canaries.
Oh,
It is a 78 record, as I recall. That's for you kids. We actually had records back there that were different sizes. There was a 45, a 78, and a 33 and a third. And it's actually orchestration music with little birds cheeping in the background. Like, that would make good sleep music. You know, if you wanted to get a sleep thing, it's like, and we do have an orchestration CD that we listen to every night for 30 years that puts us to sleep. But I'll go look for that one. Heart's Mountain Canaries.
okay, Lee Greenwood, I'd gladly stand up next to you. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome, June. I love you very much, and I'm happy to be on the podcast.
Thank you. And he drove here, guys. He drove here in the rain from Nashville to be with us. Let's hope it's cleared up for your drive back. Thank you.